I'm really delighted to spend this morning speaking to another young entrepreneur. So Neil Tanna, CEO and co-founder, as Emma said, this is the youngest company that we've had on so far in the series, Zing. Now, Neil left the world of corporate law, specializing in technology and disruptive technology to co-found Zing. And Zing is a social planning app. So we're going to hear all about that in a moment, but I'd like to just say, welcome, Neil. Good morning to you.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So we're going to address a few different issues today and kind of talk about your business and about creating a new normal for your customers, or for your users, perhaps might be a better term. And Neil's going to share his experience of really executing a lockdown pivot to do just that, to try and sort of help people adapt to what is essentially a very different situation for all of us. And we're also going to talk about the realities of running a completely digital business, of launching a digital product, and these aspects of business actually apply widely across our membership base, from large companies to small. There's lots of principles there. So I know that as we kind of move on, people are joining us as we kind of as we move throughout. And for those of you who have just joined, as Emma mentioned, there's a Q&A box, and it's on your screens. And this is where, if you have any of those thoughts, these bright sparks, I know it's early, please do pop some questions in that box, and I will try and get through as many as possible once Neil and I have had a bit of a chat and we've heard a lot more about Zing. So that's enough from me. Neil, let's start from the very beginning. Always a good idea when we're talking about a brand new business. Can you tell us a little bit about the origins of Zing, and where did this idea come from?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I used to be a corporate lawyer specializing in technology. I did that for about 3 years and did a lot of work for consumer technology and disruptive technology companies. I really enjoyed it, but I always found myself thinking that I'd be more interested and excited sitting on the client side of the table, sort of being able to have that real passion for a product or a business and then scaling it. I've always been an ideas guy. So the idea for Zing came to me in the summer of 2015 when I just graduated from uni. I had a lot of excitement for the idea, but I just had so many things keeping me busy. So legal qualification exams, training as a lawyer. And then after I qualified, the reality of the late night legal hours took over. I always had the idea in the back of my mind, I suppose, but there just never seemed to be that right moment to jump into it. But what changed everything, though, was my mum passed away. She was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And when we rushed her to hospital, she was told that she only had 4 to 6 weeks to live and would be completely bedbound. But my mum's always been a fighter, and she managed to get stronger, walk off the ward, come home, and she survived 10 months. But going through something like that really puts everything into perspective. So my mum was only in her early 50s, but she always took advantage of the opportunities that came to her. So she passed away in March last year, and by August I left my job. I had 2 really good mates at uni who I knew also had the same interest to set up a startup. And so when I told them about the idea, they loved it, and they were equally as passionate about it. So the 3 of us co-founded Zing together. So me, a chap called Duncan Cowan, who's our CTO, probably the smartest guy I know, and he has a software engineering background, and Jake Jenner, our CFO, who has an investment banking and private equity background. So it's a good mix of people. But yeah, so on to Zing. So Zing's a social planning app, and it solves a problem we all have. Organizing plans is a huge pain for everyone, mainly because there's no go-to way to organize plans. So I don't want to organize social plans over email like I do at work, and no millennials are really using Facebook anymore. And even if they are, I'm not going to organize a casual event like a dinner on a Facebook event. So everyone ends up using WhatsApp and then setting up a new WhatsApp group for every single plan. But the trouble is, WhatsApp's not built for making plans. So, all the details are in one just stream of chat. So every time you want to remind yourself, who's coming, where are we meeting, what are the details, I have to endlessly scroll. If I invite someone after, they have no idea what's going on because they can't see the chat. And, to top it all off, nothing gets added to your calendar. So you have to manually do it to remind yourself. But the biggest problem, though, that everyone finds when trying to organize plans is trying to pin down a date that everyone can make. and everyone's been through the struggle of trying to work out, what evening everyone's free for drinks, or what weekend everyone can do to visit the grandparents, or what week everyone's free to go on holiday. There's so much back and forth. Some people will say, I can't do then. How about this? And then another person will reply, well, no, I can't do then. How about the week after? So, there's so much sort of manual chaos with it, and people enter into polls. Some people even make spreadsheets, but, most of the time you end up just not meeting up. So we made Zing to solve all of these problems. So plans can be made in seconds on Zing that combine the structure of a Facebook event with the speed of a group message. So every plan you make not only has the who, the what, the where, the when together, but also has its own built-in chat, and every plan syncs directly into your calendar automatically. So you don't need to worry about forgetting anything. But even better, Zing lets you instantly find when you and your friends are all free automatically. So you do this with each of your friends. You can choose to share your availability or your calendar with them. So if you share your availability, friends can simply see when you're free or busy. So I can ask Zing, for example, I can search the next time me and my friends are all free, I don't know, for brunch at 11 on a Saturday, and Zing will automatically tell me the days that work. I can also, if I want to, share my calendar with those with close friends and family, so that they can see, for example, that I'm free next Friday and suggest dinner, or they can see my shift patterns if I work shift work, or, my girlfriend could put not so subtle reminders like your turn to take out the bins in my calendar. So we launched the app to a closed beta community in September last year. We went through several iterations of the app, continuously improving it based on product sort of feedback, user feedback, testing, etc. We then launched it in December publicly on both Apple and Google Play Store. And considering that we were sort of completely bootstrapping it and didn't have any marketing budget, we set a target of 500 downloads for the month, and we were ecstatic because we exceeded that. We hit 1,300, and by March we hit 4,000. And then, of course, coronavirus hit. So yeah, that's a snapshot in our history today.
Wow, thank you. Thanks so much for that. I mean, firstly, I feel like people are listening to this thinking, yes, I recognize that situation, that scenario, whether you're a millennial or not. I mean, I certainly think that organizing plans over WhatsApp has made us all struggle and kind of tear our hair out a little bit from time to time. So it's an absolutely fantastic idea. And clearly the success in your early stages, really as a new business shows that. It would be good to think about something that lots of people will be familiar with, or maybe will have been through, and that is about kind of just building an app. So on one level, building an app is really simple. It seems really simple, and as you said, it can be really tough to grow it, achieve levels of engagement, I guess, that might even be exciting to investors. So just before we kind of talk about the pivoting angle, what was your experience of pitching for, securing investment, bearing in mind that there's loads of apps and it's a competitive market, really?
Absolutely. There's a lot of learning along the way. We know a lot more about the process now than we did 6 months ago. But so for a consumer technology app, you've got to really show 3 key things, and that's growth, engagement, and retention. So, you need to show the download and the user numbers, that those users are active and that those users are sticking around. But the tricky thing is, most first-time founders like us, we don't really have the proper capital to be able to throw into a company at the start to really have that big spark to get those big users. We're 3 guys in our mid-20s who each handed in our notice and left our jobs, and so didn't really have buckets of cash to throw into this. So we really needed to be smart with our money and make sacrifices. But so we reached out to VCs, and there was definitely interest. But as I say, B2C free consumer tech apps are always seen as a high risk play for them, because they want to see a strong user base in the tens of thousands to demonstrate that the product really has properly reached full product market fit before they feel comfortable sort of jumping in. That's the experience we found. We knew we were definitely onto something though, because we were having to spend very little to get our users, because we never needed to convince anyone of the problem we were solving. As I say, millennials especially, but everyone knows the problem. We just needed to point them in the direction that a solution now exists. But we did feel like we needed a cash injection so that we could hire another software engineer and to sort of support our tech infrastructure growth as we grew. we therefore sort of decided to do an angel round. And, you know, we didn't want angels just to add cash, but we also wanted angels who were really going to maybe add something to our, you know, to us as founders, whether, you know, it's in a mentorship capacity or just opening doors, or just, you know, who we can really learn something from, who've maybe been through this before and can really help steer us. So, you know, as part of that round, we were really lucky because a lady called Claire Velotti, who's the current VP International at Snap, and Amir Nuriala, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at CallSign, joined the Zing family, and they've really provided a lot of steer and direction for us. So yeah, don't get me wrong, it's a whirlwind experience trying to secure investment, but I think it just comes down to just if you can really sort of show some growth in your early stage, and then just really be tenacious, just keep at it. You'll hopefully get somewhere.
Excellent, thank you. And absolutely, that growth and engagement was there from the beginning. So interesting to see how that's going to pan out, which brings us on to lockdown. Lockdown happened, and what did you see within your business, and what was your response?
So yeah, clearly lockdown meant that no one really had the need for a social planning app anymore. No one was really making social plans in the same way because they weren't allowed to meet up with friends. But yeah, look, we took stock for a short while to see what would happen. You know, there were a lot of unknowns in March when lockdown first started as to, you know, how long it would last, you know, how severe it would be, what the limitations would be. So we sort of waited and saw what people would do. We started to notice a big drive towards virtual plans. So, you know, video chats, virtual pub quizzes, online workouts, etc. And we found that people were finding it just as hard to get a group of 10 together for a video call as it was to try and get them together for dinner, because it's the same annoyance questions. It's when is everyone free to chat? You know, what evening can everyone do? And what video chat platform are we using? And, you know, do I need everyone's email to link, you know, to send this Zoom link to everyone? Or do I need to make a new WhatsApp group for it, etc.? So that's why we knew that there was maybe an opportunity there. And so that we could sort of stay relevant, we quickly pivoted and quickly built in one-tap integration with Zoom, House Party, and Hangout. So now when someone's making a plan, it's a virtual plan. So now they can just press one button on their Zoom plan and it directly opens in, for example, the Zoom chat. So, you know, if you've got a big group of people, you don't have to worry about getting everyone's email or phone numbers or setting a new WhatsApp group to get this link and then everyone loses the link. Here, you set up the plan, they've already got the plan, they just click the link and it opens up, for example, directly in whatever video chat they're using. So I really like the vitamin painkiller sweet analogy when thinking about the sort of the pivot thing and sort of to help explain some of our thinking with this. So a vitamin is sort of like your nice to have products. They're optional, but you can do without them. Painkillers are need to have products. So this is the sweet spot we really sort of wanted our product to be in. And then sweets are sort of the best position an app can be in. It's the want to have products. So, you know, TikTok and Instagram are very much here. It's the products that people get so addicted to that they just can't help but want to be on. It's obviously very difficult to achieve this, especially for a productivity app like ours. But, you know, it was very important to us that we remain as a painkiller and not shift down to a vitamin if possible during the whole lockdown, during this period we're in now. So for example, Uber, they're a painkiller because let's say, for example, it's 2 a.m., it's pouring down with rain outside and you've just left the venue you've been at. The last thing you want to do is go looking for a taxi rank or call a taxi to try and find your location and try and find where you are. So, you know, you just want to press a button and have an Uber come pick you up then and there. So this is what we were trying to achieve for Zing. So, you know, for example, with one of our use cases before, it was no one wants to try and manually work out when a group of 10 people are free to meet if they can do it just by pressing a button on Zing, and Zing can instantly work it out for them. And so that's the bucket we tried to keep with during lockdown by shifting into virtual plans.
Neil, can I pick up on something there actually?
Yeah,
and it's about some of the technical challenges, because you mentioned doing one-tap integration. When you say that, it sounds really simple, but that must have taken some time. I mean, what was that like, deciding firstly that was exactly what you needed to do and then executing that? What were some of the things that kind of happened there?
No, don't get so. As I say, our CTO is probably the smartest guy I've ever met. So, you know, full credit goes to him. I'm kind of just the ideas guy and kind of ask for something, see if something can be done, and I kind of expect that Duncan can now achieve it. But with that, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of discussion that went into it. So, you know, we saw that there was this big drive to virtual plans. We considered building our own video chat and integrating that directly into the app, but you know, it would take a lot more time, and there'll be a hell of a lot of cost and an ongoing cost with that. So we realized we didn't need to sort of make our own video chat platform to compete with these bigger players. Everyone was used to these bigger players. It would have taken it would have been much harder for us to change consumer behavior to say use our video app instead of Zoom or Hangouts or House Party, which everyone's used to. But you know, just so we integrated directly with them, because we very much just want to be the help that helps you schedule it. And then, you know, the plan, you already know what you're doing. We just want to take away all of the faff, the admin, the chaos in getting you from idea to plan. So we just had to think about how we apply that to the virtual setting.
So certainly a very busy week, and something that we might pick up on later, because I'm conscious that we've been talking for a little while, and I think that some questions will start to come through soon. As I said, because a lot, you know, people listening will have gone through this experience of trying to launch a digital product with varying degrees of success, and we all know that things can fall flat. But one of the things that you've raised there, which I think we'll circle back to later, is about being part of this digital ecosystem, about having to integrate with other platforms, with other and with other and I guess with other apps and other technologies that people are using, which I think has got its own challenges as well. Let's scroll ahead a little bit, because I want to get your thoughts on about, you know, the new normal, and this is becoming, I think, something of a hackneyed term probably already, but social planning, it's changed, it's going to evolve over time. What does the future look like in your opinion for social planning, and kind of how Zing will fit into that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely really interesting for sure. You know, we really started to see a big trend to lots of businesses moving their services and offerings online to try and ride through this period. And I think there's definitely, as a result of that, been a big shift in consumer behavior with how they approach and deal with brands, I think. So for example, lots of gyms, PTs, fitness classes, they've all started to offer virtual sessions, and there's been a huge uptake in them. A good example is dance. So for example, my girlfriend is an avid dancer, but previously never found the time to fit in going to dance classes during the week alongside her busy job. And all of a sudden, she's now able to attend 2 to 3 dance classes a week in the comfort of her own home, and she's loving it. You know, and it's easily a service that she would pay for, but before lockdown happened, it wasn't ever something that was really offered in the same way. It's the same sort of thing, I suppose, with, you know, a lot of restaurants have moved to doing online baking classes. There's virtual wine tasting, and I know, you know, a lot of people have tried online, you know, live drawing tutorials, etc. And I think it's becoming clear that, you know, to a lot of businesses, that there's this whole new business model available to them. You know, virtual events where you don't need to worry about the hassle, cost, or, you know, logistics of a physical space. And, you know, I think a big part of that will continue, because it means that I can attend a virtual plan that isn't just a video call with family and friends all over the country, let alone the world. Like, you know, we don't have to worry about, you know, I can only do plans with someone in the same locality anymore, because so many businesses are getting creative with how they can take their products and offerings online. And I think because they're seeing a really positive response to this, I really do think that this trend will perhaps continue. There's this whole sort of different avenue now of event.
Yeah, and so there's lots to be excited about in that regard. I guess something to go back to as well with respect to like the new normal for customers, and I guess it depends on who your customers are. Do you know, or are you seeing any changes in your user base at all? I mean, you know, you mentioned millennials, and you know that they're an important segment. Do you think that, I suppose, this shift to a virtual world, which has engulfed all of us, could have some benefits for Zing in terms of the user base at all?
Yeah, so very much, that's a really good question. At the beginning, our user base very much was more female than male orientated, because the females tend to be far better at planning than males do. So that's what we found. And also our user base was very much in the sort of 21 to 28 range. Now we're very much seeing that broaden. So we've got a lot of users now who are, you know, who are mums and dads and are using the app to help schedule their new time at home with their children, and how, you know, they can share calendars. And And they're finding that really useful, because suddenly now they're not used to being at home so much with their other half and their kids all the time. And how do we organize what my kids are going to do all day alongside what I'm going to do all day, alongside what my husband's going to do all day, for example. So people are using it for that. People are using it to help share their shift patterns now a bit more. So people are expanding the use of Zing to not just be social planning, but more just be into just general calendar and life organization. We're starting to broaden out our feature base so that we cater more for shift work and other types of use case outside of just simply social planning, because there's a lot of use case that you can get from being able to, if you and your husband both shared calendars, for example, and you could use Zing to instantly find an hour that you're both free for an appointment, rather than having to manually go through both your calendars yourself. That's not a social plan, but you can use it to instantly say, this is an hour we're both free to, go see that flat viewing, or, you get the idea. But so we're definitely seeing a broader trend use of the app. So I think we're starting to recognize that ourselves.
That's really interesting. If you can solve and make less, make more seamless any sort of intermarital communication in that way, an organization and domestic, then you really are onto something. We've got a couple of questions coming through, but I just want to take this moment because, as I said, a few people joined us, I think, after you started introducing Zing, and then we've been discussing for a while now the various aspects of your pivot and some of the big changes that you've been through. It's certainly been a roller coaster, and clearly, you've got a lot of strategies to respond to this stuff. If anybody has any questions, so there's a way to submit that. There is a box on the screen somewhere. It'll be in different locations for different screens, but it says Q&A. So please do take any moments to pop any questions in there, and I'll be able to submit a few to Neil. I've got one or two more of my own before we go to that, and then something's come through where we can maybe just talk about kind of flexibility within a business as well, because that's an essential part of the pivot. But before we get to that, so just to go back to kind of any technical challenges, just really briefly, I mean, what are the technical challenges of owning a digital product, or just, it's a digital business in general. It's quite a different operation. What's your view on that?
I think the biggest problem is that it's always on 24/7. So something can happen at the weekend at 3 a.m. or while you're on holiday, and in that way, I suppose we think of it more as a service than a product. And when something goes wrong, you just we've learned now to not panic. Things go wrong. Things might suddenly randomly go wrong for no reason. But step up, think straight, get the problem fixed quickly and calmly. So I suppose that's the big challenge of owning a digital product. But I suppose another is having to make sure that the app works completely smoothly on two very different operating systems, so Apple and Android. And then making it that the app can easily communicate with not only other apps on the same operating system, but also apps on the other operating system. So there's a big technical challenge there, especially with such a small team, and having to, we've up until now, we've only had one software engineer, Duncan. So, he's done a tremendous job in making the app work smoothly on two different operating systems. And I suppose, a really big technical challenge with any digital product is data protection, and making sure our app always complies with data protection legislation, which of course everyone is really hot on now, but not just because we need to, but because we want to, because we want our users to feel comfortable that their information is completely secure with us. We don't want people to worry, about Zing, about calendar sharing and all this. We want you to feel completely secure that, it's only the people you choose to share your calendar with will see it, and things like that. So thankfully, we've really spent a lot of time and effort on making sure everything is safe and secure, and we will continue to do so. But no, I think with any digital product, that's a really key one.
Thanks. And actually mentioning data there, I think usually we do have kind of a few data professionals listening to this, and kind of data privacy and protection as a differentiator. I mean, that's excellent to hear you say that. I feel like we don't hear that enough necessarily. So I'm going to kind of move to essentially what I hope is my last question, and then we've got a couple coming through to ask you before we wrap up. And this, I guess, is a bit more personal, really. I mean, you left the security of the legal profession armed with a very, very good idea to co-found Zing. And what on earth has that transition been like for you and your co-founders, if you can speak on their behalf a little bit?
Well, I can tell you the hours are no better. The hours, yeah, definitely no better than the legal profession. But I think the big difference is that I love what I do. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed working as a lawyer, but there's nothing like running your own business and trying to turn your passion into something. No 2 days are the same, and I really find that exciting, and I know Duncan and Jake do as well. So, for example, one day I could be working on our own legal documents, another I could be doing branding and marketing, another still I could be doing sort of business and commercial partnerships, and then another day I could be doing product and UI design. So I love the flexibility and sort of the different ways, and you just learn so much being a founder, and I really like that. But it is true what people say, that the stress can sometimes feel greater because it's yours, because it's your company. And I can't just leave the office and leave my stress there. But on the flip side, the achievements and when things go right, there's no feeling like it. It makes all the sacrifices, the all-nighters, the stress, all worth it.
Neil, thanks very much. I mean, as I said, I think hearing about the bravery to sort of throw in the towel on what is essentially a really sort of secure. I appreciate that being a city lawyer is extremely long hours and full of challenges itself. But I think there are lots of good ideas that people have, and it's just having that guts and the team to go with that. I think is I don't know if this is going to inspire a few more people to think this idea I've had, maybe it's time, particularly in the environment that we're in. I'm going to come to a few questions now because we have had some submitted and they're all really good questions. So first, the first thing is, Zing sounds like a really cool app. How do I use it if my friends aren't on it?
So this is something we thought a lot about, and it's especially important for consumer apps because you have to grow and to really get that scale. You have to do as much as you can to reduce adoption friction. So that was really important to us. So there's no point in me having a social planning app if everyone finds it really painful, because then they're like, okay, what's this new app I've got to download? How do I set all this up? And let's just go back to making it on WhatsApp. So basically the way we built it in is that only the host needs to have Zing, and everyone else can be invited through a link. So everyone else can be invited through an email, through a WhatsApp, through whatever, and have all the details of the plan. And it's just only after that do they, if they want to have the sort of extra features of being able to automatically find when everyone's free, to use the sort of chat features, it's only then would you download the app. But to actually find out the details of the plan, you don't need the app. But as we continue to grow, we want to build a web app so that you wouldn't even need to download the app necessarily even if you didn't want to. So, it is something that's really important to us. We don't just want to force you to download the app, but just to use the event planning features. It's just the host that needs to have that.
Cool, thanks very much for that. We're going to go back to something we were talking about earlier, and this is submitted from the Word Thing Services. So Zing's a great name. Where did it come from?
So yeah, there's a story behind the name. So we initially started off with the word zinc, and zinc was a play on the word sync. So syncing calendars, syncing social plans, making it easy to make plans, and we liked that sort of zinc was that sort of like quirky modern play on the word sync. So we were Zinc while we were in beta, but then unfortunately just before we were about to launch, we realized that Google had relaunched their cloud rendering service, which is also called Zinc, which previously had been dormant for the last couple of years. And so we thought maybe it wasn't the best idea to launch a product that also is shared with Google. It would be a nightmare from a SEO and trademarking perspective. So yeah, we quickly changed our name from Zinc to Zing. I actually prefer Zing now. I like how it rolls off the tongue, and it sort of represents sort of quick, easy plans, which is what we're trying to sort of build the app around. So yeah, no, we're glad that we ended up with Zing. Yeah,
the name has to go through a few iterations as well. This is actually a statement from Paul, but it's worth sort of putting to you and just seeing kind of what your response is. And this is, This is the Bank of England. They've just done, I think, their first video presentation on the effects of COVID-19. And this is about 12 minutes in, so Paul's really been paying attention. About 12 minutes in, they say there's likely to be a downer and a sort of a big slowdown in innovation over the next 12 months. And actually, I mean, sort of Paul's view is that this session, this series, listening to you and what's happening in your business, some of the other guest disruptors that we've had on, is really sort of saying, you know, well, old models to predict the future is not helpful, because I think what's been shown here is that you know, that there are workarounds and there are other ways. How do you feel about that, this potential for a sort of a slowdown in innovation over the next 12 months? What's your view, how to cope?
I think it is really interesting. It's actually, I've heard that a few times where, you know, whether it's that people are just more cautious with everything going on, and people are a bit more stable and sort of want to keep to the sort of just to the status quo a bit and sort of just use existing products. But I think it's an interesting one. I think maybe new innovation won't so go at the same rate, but perhaps people will jump onto what has previously been created in higher amounts. So basically what I mean by that is, you know, a lot of big and innovative products have been built over the last couple of years, but perhaps people haven't tried them or been forced to try them because they've been used to the products that they were already using for such a long time. But now that their way of living, their way of working, their way of doing so many things has suddenly changed, people are suddenly trying so many new tools. And so from that perspective, people are being innovative because they're trying so many different innovative things, and they're seeing what all these amazing products are and how they can do and how they can work together. So, you know, people who may have been working off email before are now suddenly trying Slack and Microsoft Teams and thinking, wow, this is so innovative. And Slack and Microsoft Teams are thinking this has been around for years. So, you know, people are being innovative in that way. But, you know, I would like to think that as we work in this way, people are going to be innovative in developing new products that help people, you know, adjust more to their new way of living and working. And so we will see innovative products come out that way. And I think people are also pivoting their existing products into how their new pivoted products can help people in the existing environment as well. So I think you'll see innovation there as well. But no, I'd like to think that you will see innovation continue. But I think it's really interesting to see how people have also adapted to previously innovative products in this time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just another a couple of quick things, and then we're going to hand back to Emma because we're almost up for time. Firstly, this is a comment from VJ, and it says, "Lawyer turned entrepreneur, so inspiring for other youngsters," which I think is a fabulous comment because it proves that you're still looking young and that these long hours aren't aging you right now. I think that's really good. So a couple of quick things. So do you see this as an opportunity to work in a B2B environment as well? Is that something that might be on the cards for Zing, or are you sticking with B2C for now?
It's a really interesting question. And it is something that we've started to think of more and more, where, you know, we could perhaps, there is a big potential here for us to integrate more with businesses and for us to integrate more with, you know, because they're doing a lot of virtual plans and businesses are having a big scheduling need as well. It's something that we are really thinking about now. I think what any startup has to do, especially one going through lockdowns, you've always got to be ready to pivot, and you've always got to be ready to sort of think on your feet. And so we are very much doing that. So yeah, let's see what happens. But you know, you never say never.
Last question. Thanks so much. And just a brief answer if you can, because I'm going to hand back to Emma shortly. So this is about what hours you do, but actually more to the point, how do you and your co-founders actually stay productive and switch off?
It's as if my girlfriend is asking me this question.
It might be, actually.
It's really hard, you know, but I think what makes it both really hard and really easy is I love what I do, and so do Jake and Duncan. And so it makes it really hard to switch off because you're like, oh God, it's 10 o'clock and I'm still at my desk. Not, it's 10 o'clock and I'm still at my desk. So you do have to get really strict, and we are trying to get a bit better at that, but I've really got to be honest, it's not something that Jake, Duncan and I are particularly strong at right now, but I think it's generally because we have so much passion for it. But I think you have got to try and be strict and have that separation. We're very strict with ourselves on weekends, but inevitably we do end up doing a little bit. But I think we're very much at that stage where we've got to put our all into this. We don't ever want to have any regrets. And yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Neil, it has been absolutely wonderful interviewing you. Thank you for telling us your story. And, you know, I can see that your mum has been a massive inspiration to you, and I'm sure she'd be so proud of everything you've achieved so far. I'm going to hand back to you, Emma. Thanks so much, Neil.
No, thank you.
Thank you both very much indeed. Just to echo Jess's words, I think sometimes those most horrendous personal moments in our lives can be even more of an inspiration. I think we learn a lot about ourselves and our drive and our motivation from those that cared for us when we were younger. So Neil, I'm so sorry for what did happen, and I, as Jess says, I think she'd be hugely proud, as I'm sure many of your family and friends are. So thank you so much for sharing so much. I think, as Jess said, to be such a young business and to have been so positive and strong and seen ways out of this so rapidly, when so many of us are now in lockdown at home, not going to the cinema, not going to the pubs, not going to the restaurants, I think is invaluable. And I think so many of us are struggling to even get close to virtual catch-ups and chats and birthday parties and all kinds of things. So my sister turns another year older at the weekend, and you just think, why on earth aren't we all together? So thank you for keeping us all together in a different way, and we're really grateful to you for that. So if you have enjoyed this episode, we'd love you to stay with us for our next episode. We continue with this series, Pivot Don't Panic, all the way through May, and actually conclude it at our big event for members on the 2nd of June. So that's a Tuesday. Originally, it was very much focused for our members on a specific thing, which actually we have now updated to pivot to a new future. Actually, many of the sessions were so relevant even before that, but I think even more than ever, it's really important that we pack the day with masterclasses and keynotes and opportunities for our members to connect with each other and really get to know each other. We've got a number of the masterclasses that are looking incredibly full at the moment already, but please do sign up if you haven't already, and please do bring colleagues and business peers. I think the most important thing at the moment is, as our role as a community, to really connect members together, both new and existing, and to really look at actionable insights and indeed strategies, because talking about things at the moment can almost feel more overwhelming than actually what the conclusion can look like and what the opportunities can look like. So we're covering everything from game time boost through to critical workloads and infrastructure innovation, all the way through to digital optimum, innovation mindset, intuitive brand index, and data journeys.